Hey there, everybody. Adam Tono here. Thanks again for stopping by my website. Maybe you clicked on this video because you're on my YouTube page, something like that. Listen, I'm just encouraged to know that you're here to get a little bit of a better idea, maybe what it would be like if you hired me to speak at one of your events or a conference that you've got coming up. I'm excited to show you another example of something that I've done recently. If you've clicked on one of the other videos, maybe you've already seen that with me talking about this large outdoor furniture manufacturer located in Ohio. They host a big conference every year. They ask me to play the MC role throughout the day, do some stage games, have some fun, and also share a couple of messages. This is now example of message number 2. So these small business owners, they want an enduring organization. So we talked about foundations. That was in one of the other videos. And now for the second message that I shared that day, I talked about how to improve their relationship with their customers. Part of my history, I feel like I've been a part of 3 great organizations that did phenomenal things to have good relationships with their customers. I worked for a church for 10 years that I thought we did that with excellence. I worked for a large retailer and I thought we were great with customers. And I also worked down in Walt Disney World when I was in college, which is known for its legendary customer service. So I just share some things that I learned from being a part of those 3 organizations that can apply to any business. And so that's what this message is about. Again, if there's anything I can do to help you with one of your upcoming events, a way that I can encourage your team, there's my email address, adam@adamtarno.com. I'd love to hear from you. But other than that, enjoy this message on how we can improve our relationships with our customers.
Okay, I want to keep up with this theme that we were talking about. So this morning I talked about strong foundations. We want our businesses to endure, and so we need to build some strong foundations to be able to do that. And then Seth talked about knowing who you are, liking who you are, being who you are. That's one of the ways that we're going to continue to establish that strong foundation. And now I want to talk about the implications of that, and one of the key relationships where we're going to start to see a strong foundation have a positive impact, and it's in our relationships with our customers. Because again, if we want to have successful businesses that endure, we really need to think about those relationships with our customers. And so to set up that time, I want to tell you a story about a gentleman that you'll probably never meet. It's one of the best customer service examples that I've gone through, and my wife and I have gone through over the last probably 2 or 3 years. And the guy's name is Dave Noblin, and Dave works for Terminex. He's the extermination company, Terminex. And so that old house that I told you about was built in the, I think it was built in the early 50s, the ones that we were living in. And so in Texas, we've got some weird weather around there. It's really hot, it's really dry. And so one of the things that happens when you live in Texas is you get these big old roaches. Those things can happen. I'm not trying to disgust us with all of that. Listen, I believe in the existence of God, and if there is anything that causes me to doubt the existence of God sometimes, it's the size of these roaches, okay? So I feel like when I get to heaven, I'm going to be like, I believe in you, but can we talk about those roaches? Because those things are really big. So I do not like roaches. They are not fun, and I certainly don't want them in my house. And so Dave, we signed up with Terminex. He would just come by once a quarter. He would treat the house. He always called me beforehand. He left a professional message. He told me when he was going to be there. He always showed up. When he showed up, he went about his business. He would knock on the door. He would ask us if we needed inside the house treated. I mean, he was fantastic. It was some of the best money that I ever spent on that house to have that quarterly treatment to make sure that there were going to be no roaches. Every time after he would leave, he would always say, if there's a problem, call me. So even though he was only scheduled to show up once a quarter, he always said, if you've got something going on, you start to see something in the house, just call me. I'll be happy to come over. And then about a year ago, we started seeing some more roaches in the house. There was a problem. And so I was like, I don't like it. My wife doesn't like it. My boys don't like it. And so we would call Dave, and Dave would be like, I will be there. Let me come over. I'll be over tomorrow. So in between those quarterly services, he would always show up. He was professional. He would come in. He would start looking at where they were. Well, we're seeing him in the bathroom over here, and he'd get under the cabinets and, shore up some holes that he was seeing and treat a few spots. And I always said, if you still see him, call me and I'll come back. And he came back and was treating a lot of the things inside the house, and we still were having some of them show up. And so we're starting to think like something's going on. And then he came over one afternoon in the middle of the summer and spent about 45 minutes crawling around on his belly under my house, looking for where these roaches were possibly coming in from and putting a lot of boric acid down there and all kinds of things, and it took care of the problem. And so he came out and again talked to us, and he was so professional, always said the same thing: if you ever have a problem, call me. I'd love to come over and to help you. And he almost approached extermination like it was his craft. Right? There was just something about it that when he came over, you could just tell this gentleman is pursuing excellence. He's pursuing excellence. He does not want there to be any unwanted pests in this house. And it built so much trust for Jackie and I. We trusted him so much. And it got to the point where when we sold that house, and then we were trying to find a new house to buy, and we couldn't find it enough time before school started, so we went into a rental house that was just a couple miles up the road, that I did not have the heart to cancel the service with Terminex. And so I was like, Dave, I need you to keep treating this rental house because I don't know what's over there, and so I want you to keep coming over. So Dave would come over. After we had been at this new house, this new rental house for a couple of months, the landlord was like, hey, I have a quarterly extermination that comes over, and so this guy's going to come over. And I still didn't have the heart to fire Dave. So we were doubling up on extermination. I'm surprised my dog is still alive, right? Like, we had so much stuff that was going on in that rental house, and we doubled up on it. And then finally it got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't double up on this. So I called Terminex just to see, can I pause until we find a new house? Or they were like, well, you have to cancel it. And I was like, can I just say, Dave Noblin is the greatest service provider I have. We love that guy. It got to the point where the lady was like, okay, I've noted it. Right? Like, I've noted that. That's great. We love to hear that. I texted Dave, and I was like, man, we canceled the contract, but I'm telling you, the second we buy a house, I'm coming right back, and I want you, right? I want you to service this house. And so that's been one of the best customer service examples that I have come across in a long time. And when you have a good customer service situation like that or story like that, this is what you do. You go and tell people. Right? This is how word of mouth stuff starts. You brag about it, right? And we all do this. If you've read a good book, you tell a friend about it. You see a good movie, you tell your friends about it. It somehow makes the joy of going through that more complete, to be able to go and to share that with your friends. And so that's what I'm doing. And there's just something about stunning customer service like that creates something that is just magical and enduring and lasting forever. And so I start with that story about Dave because here this afternoon, before we wrap up, before we close, as we think about how we can continue to build enduring businesses, I think it's important for us to revisit this relationship that we've got with our customers. Because I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but the fact that you and I, that we have a business, like the reason we have a business, or what makes us a business, is not that we filed paperwork with the state. It's not that we have a showroom or a physical location. What makes us a business is not that we have logos or a website or a great marketing campaign. That's not what makes us a business. You know what makes us a business? One customer. One customer. That's what makes us a business. You and I, we are not a business if we don't have customers. Simple, but sometimes we need that reminder. You know what we're doing? If we don't have customers, then that means what we have is an incredibly elaborate and very expensive hobby. And so the difference between a hobby and a business oftentimes is customers. And so if we want those customers to stay so that we can continue to have a successful and enduring business, then we really need to think about what does it take for us to develop or have that stunning customer service where people go and they talk about it. And so today, this is a really important topic for us because I know we want to build those relationships with that. But if there's things that I'll hear sometimes as businesses talk about customer service, sometimes they'll talk about customer service like it's a department or it's just a function. It's just almost like a necessary evil. It's something we have to do. And I think the difference that we see between those businesses that endure and are really successful and those that just kind of flounder around, it really starts with their mindset towards their customer. And that they recognize that customer service is not just a department. It really is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. And so what I want us to see here is that the key to stunning customer service actually has nothing to do with the customer. The key to stunning customer service actually has everything to do with you and what you think about your customer, the way you talk about your customer, and the way you even think about yourself, your identity, when it comes to relating with your customers. Those are the three things I just real quickly want to cover here. Because again, I think the keys to that stunning customer service is going to be found in our heart, it's going to be found in our words, and it's going to be found in our identity. And that has nothing to do with the customers. And so I like to say this. It's something that I heard years ago. So what we're going to do today is we're going to draw a circle, and we're going to go stand in the middle of that circle, and we're going to focus on everybody inside that circle, which means we're just going to focus on ourselves, because that is the shape, or that's what's going to lead us to be able to create that stunning customer service, is the ability to do that. So let's start by talking about our hearts, and the way that this can impact how we relate to our customers. And to do that, I want to share a really silly story, because it illustrates a principle that I want to make of something that happened to my son and I recently, okay? So this is the neighborhood where we're renting our home right now. That street right there is Canyon Creek Drive. What you can see right there, that other black line, that road coming perpendicular into Canyon Creek Drive, is an alley. So in Texas, we've got alleys where that's your garage is typically in the back of the house. You go through an alley, and that's how you get to into your garage and into your house. And so we've got an alley system there. So my son and I are down there in the bottom left-hand corner. We're out on a walk. It was a beautiful day. I think this was like in early January or something like that. So beautiful day outside. We're taking a walk. And we're about ready to come up to this intersection with the alley. And this runner comes right by us. And I can see everything as it's about to go down. There's a pickup truck, like a driver of a pickup truck that's coming up to the alley. And this runner is coming right by me. And the runner thinks that the pickup truck sees him. But the pickup truck doesn't see the runner. And so the runner keeps going and runs right in front of the pickup truck. And as he gets in front of the pickup truck driver starts to move forward. Then he suddenly sees the runner and slams on the brakes. And so the runner got a little startled by that. So as he's going by the truck and that truck comes out, he jumps back because, he didn't want to get hit by the truck. So he jumps back and he says something like, "Hey, watch it," to that pickup truck driver. I'm editing a little bit, okay? So he said, "Hey, watch it." Said it with a very harsh tone, very loudly. The pickup truck driver, his window was down. How do you think he reacted? What do you think he said? There's kids in the room. I won't ask you, okay? So he had some expletives that he said back, right? So he responded the exact same way that the runner responded. And then the runner moves on, and the pickup truck driver slams on the gas, peels out, does a turn, flies up, yells another thing to the runner, and then they go on about their merry little way, all right? I'm sitting there with my 13-year-old son, and I'm going, "Okay, Josh, why did that happen? What happened there? Why did that happen?" Because what I knew in that moment was this is a teachable moment, because this is something that happens to us all the time. We all face moments like this where somebody does something and we get frustrated, and then we react to that person, and then they see our tone, they see our anger, they see our frustration, and then they react back in kind. And you get this back and forth going, and I bet if we extrapolated that out, the runner and the truck driver probably got home that night and around the dinner table would say something like, "You'll never believe what happened today." And both of them would have told that story like they were the hero and they were the one who did nothing wrong. And my son and I are sitting there and I'm going, "You both did something wrong." And so what happened there was this. Let me tell you something. I'm getting this idea from the Arbinger Institute in their book, The Anatomy of Peace. Here's what I think happened. And this is so profound, and this is going to relate to where we are with where our hearts are with our customers. But what happened there in that moment was the runner did not view the truck driver as a person. He was viewing the truck driver as an object. And because he was not viewing the truck driver as a person, but rather viewing him as an object, that mindset created some behaviors in him that came out in his tone, in his language, in the way he pointed his finger. All of it came out because when your mindset, when we view people like an object, you cannot help but hide it. It's always there. And that's what people pick up on. And so that truck driver saw the way that he reacted and saw that mindset of like, "Oh, he's treating me like an object right now," and so he wanted to treat him back the same way. And so if I was going to place blame for that silly little situation, which we've all been through these types of things, I would say the blame started with the runner. Because the runner started that volleying back and forth. They started with a tone and with a frustration that said, I don't see you as a person, I see you as an object. Hey, watch it. And then the truck driver responded back the exact same way, because this is what happens. And so if we're going to think about how we think about our, our interactions with our customers, what we need to recognize is this, is that the results are always a result, or results come from our behaviors. And the way we are behaving, it always comes from our mindsets. It always comes from mindsets. We cannot behave apart from where our mindset is. And just real simply, what mindset is the way you think about yourself, the way you think about others, the way you're approaching your circumstances, your challenges, your opportunities, all of those things. We always behave from the way we are thinking about someone. And in that moment where that interaction went down, the runner was viewing that truck driver as an object, and the truck driver was viewing the runner as an object. They were not people, they were somebody in the way, somebody treating me with that tone, and that's where you get those types of situations that happen. And so if we want to have stunning customer service, here's where this relates. I think the question we need to ask ourselves is this, is how do you think about your customers? How do you view them? Because if you and I, if we are viewing them as objects, they always come in right before we close. They always come in and they're asking for crazy things. You know what, I'm kind of stressed. I don't know if I'm going to make payroll this week, and so this is somebody that's going to help me. If I can close this sale, then maybe I can pay my employees. If we just start to view them as an object, not as a person, you better believe that is going to have an impact on that relationship and whether or not that person is going to want to leave our establishment bragging about us or telling people, hey, I don't know if I'd go there. Again, my son and I, we saw something just like that this weekend. We were going to the mall to look for something in the local mall there in Dallas, and we walked into one of the department stores. And the area where we walked in was it was in the men's section. It was right by the cologne counter, which personally, I have not looked at the cologne counter in over 30 years, since I was in middle school, okay? That was the last time I thought about cologne personally. Well, my son's in middle school, so guess what he sees? He's like, oh, cologne counter, I want some cologne. So he goes around and he starts smelling everything, and I live with the guy, and I'm like, yeah, you may need some. So I was okay with him looking at everything. And this woman, one of the sales associates there, immediately comes up to us, and she was so engaging. She was like, oh, I see that you're young. You want to know the one that all your friends are coming in and buying? And she takes them over to this brand, and she's like, so there's this one, and there's this one, and she's spraying it on the things, and he's smelling it, and he's like, yeah, this is good, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just going, I know how much this stuff costs, right? So I have no interest in buying him some cologne right now. She's looking at like a little graphic that I had on my T-shirt, and she's engaging with me. I'm like, this woman knows what she's doing, okay? So then it all changed. Because then she starts to go through the prices. And I think I threw up in my mouth when I heard some of the prices, right? Like I was like, what? That cost how much? And she could see that I'd changed, and I was like, we're not doing that. And the moment I started to say, yeah, thank you, it was like her face and her countenance and everything changed. The smile went away. The looking us in the eyes went away. All the charm was gone in a heartbeat. And I was like, oh, that's the way this is. Okay, well, we're gonna go move on. She didn't want to talk to us anymore. And what I walked away from feeling was a little bit more like an object than a person. She first engaged me, and I was like, oh, she wants to get to know. She's treating me like a person. And then the moment she saw that I wasn't going to hand over money, it was like, next, who else can I go to? And that was palpable. And so again, I'm telling the story, but it's way different than the Dave story with Terminex. This is a completely different story. And so if I do ever get to the point where I win the lottery and I buy my son some of that very expensive cologne, guess where I'm not going? I'm not going to go to that place where they viewed me like an object, not like a person. And so where our hearts are, if our hearts are at war towards our customers, and if we think we can hide that, I just want to be a friend and tell you the only person you're fooling is yourself. Because we always can tell where somebody's mindset is. We can tell. It's palpable. And so stunning customer service, again, it starts with us. It doesn't start with the customer, and it starts with how do we view them? Are they coming in as people and we're seeing them as people, or are they just coming in as objects? Are they coming in as people, or are they coming in as dollar signs? And if we can start to view them as people, that will be noticeable to them. The second thing we need to focus on is our words. Our words. I feel like in my career, I've been lucky to work for 3 organizations that really did a great job at stunning customer service, and I see a theme through all 3 of them. So I shared some stories last year, but when I was in college, I took a semester off of school and went down to Orlando, and I'd had an accounting internship at Walt Disney World. So I got to be what they call a cast member at Walt Disney World, and I got to go through all the training as if I was on the front lines selling popcorn or running the Pirates of the Caribbean ride or anything like that. Even though I was way back office doing all the accounting, they trained me in customer service even for that 7 months that I was down there. And Walt Disney World is known as having stunning customer service. That guest experience is amazing. I saw something there. I then, at some point, for about 2 years of my career, I got to work at the Neiman Marcus Group, the luxury retailer, again, in their accounting department, but I got to see something there. They're known for their customer service. And then I got to spend 10 years on staff at a church in Dallas, Texas, and I think all 3 of those were fantastic at the way that they thought about their customers. And so it started with the mindset where they viewed their customers as people, but then there was something at all 3 of those that has to do with our words that I think is very profound, and here's what they did. The way they talked about it, all 3 of those organizations, the way they talked about their customers behind their back was amazing. So those organizations, when the customers were not in the room, they spoke about their customers with reverence. It was like that we appreciate them, we like them, we are so grateful for them. When the customers were not around and they were gossiping about the customers, talking about them behind their back, it was all really good gossip. There was a lot of gratitude, and there was a reverence almost in the way that they talked about it. And I think that is something that's incredibly instructive for us as we think about our relationship with customers. Here's a question: how do you talk about your customers when they're not around? So you close the shop down for the day, or you and your spouse are talking at the end of the night, or you're just chit-chatting in the back with some of your other colleagues. What are you saying about the customers when they're not in the room? Because here's the thing. The way you talk about them behind their back is absolutely going to impact the way you treat them to their face. So those 2 things are very much connected. And so if we want to have that stunning customer service, we first ask ourselves, all right, am I viewing them as a person or an object? And then how am I talking about them? How do we talk about them? Do we talk about them with reverence? What are you, as the owner and the leader, what kind of model are you setting for your team when it comes to talking about customers? Because those words are going to impact the way we treat them when we get to face them face to face. So again, that shape, drawing that circle, focusing on ourselves. And then the last one would be this. The last one would be our identity. Our identity. How do you think about yourself? Because maybe the foundation of both of those 2 really is rooted in how you think about yourself. And so I have really enjoyed over the years learning from one of the founders and the longtime president of the Ritz-Carlton Group. His name is Horst Schulze. So the Ritz-Carlton Group is luxury hotel line, and they are known, again, for having their world-class customer service. And if you hear Horst talk about when they started the Ritz-Carlton, they started it with this desire to have stunning customer service day in and day out. They wanted to be known as not just a really nice hotel, but a hotel that treats people unusually great. So Horst was in the hospitality industry for a long time, and he saw some things in the hospitality industry that he didn't like. So now that he had the chance to start from the ground up and build it, he was like, I'm making these changes. And one of the things that he saw in the hospitality industry, specifically within hotels, is they have a lot of different tiers of workers. You've got the front desk workers, and then you've got some bellmen, and then you've got some kitchen staff, and then you've got some housekeeping, and you've got, the back office people. And what he saw at a lot of hotels was that in some of those hotels, that was like there was a hierarchy of who was more important and who was less important. And so the front desk staff felt like they were better than the bellmen, and the bellmen thought like, oh, well, I'm better than some of the kitchen staff, and the kitchen staff felt like they were better than the housekeeping staff, and it just ended up with this internal fighting, if you will. And what he knew is that if he wanted to create an organization with stunning customer service, he needed every single employee to think differently. Because anybody that stayed in a hotel, you don't just interact with one group of people. You see them all. And he knew that that service mindset needed to be spread throughout the whole organization. So he came up with a phrase. He came up with a phrase that he used. Every single new hire, when they went through training, they were taught this phrase. And what he said is, he goes, first and foremost, I want you all to believe that your job has dignity. You are not just a kitchen worker. You are not just in housekeeping. You are not just a front desk. You are not just a bellman. You're not just back office. We are, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen who serve ladies and gentlemen. And to hear him tell that story, it's so inspiring, because he said, I think what we needed to do was we needed to understand that every role has dignity. There is no hierarchy of roles here within the organization. And if we want to create stunning customer service, it starts first with the way we view ourselves. And so if we view ourselves as just a customer service rep, or just a kitchen staff, or just somebody at the front desk, then that's absolutely going to come across in the way we treat our customers. But if we feel good about ourselves, if we recognize we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, well, now that changes the way that we interact. There's no hierarchy here. Now we're just on equal plane, and we get the opportunity to serve. We don't have to serve. And so that identity piece, like, where are you with that? You can rip off ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. You can do that. What I think about as an outside observer of what I think, very specifically what Luxcraft is doing and what you all are doing in your businesses, some of those things that are more of like an identity statement, what you get to do. And I saw it in the catalog, this amazing catalog that these guys came up with. I see it out here. I see it in the pictures. What's missing from all of this great stuff are the families who are going to sit in those seats. And the families who sit around those tables and who sit in those chairs, and the conversations that they're going to be able to have. And the memories that they're going to be able to have. I mean, that's what you all get to do. That's your identity. Your family serving other families. You're helping families create spaces for the memories that are going to last for the rest of their lives. Is that a noble cause? Yeah, that's a noble cause. Is there dignity in that? Of course there's dignity in that. It's amazing what you guys get to do to create these moments for family. You're giving them space for that they can connect with one another. So you're not just selling furniture. You're not just selling other things. Nobody's just a customer service rep. No, you are a family, and you are helping other families create these spaces. And there's a tremendous amount of meaning that comes from that. And so if we want to have stories like I have with Dave and Terminex, and we want to avoid the stories like the lady at the cologne counter, I don't think it has anything to do with the customers. It has everything to do with us. And so it has to do with how are we viewing them as people or objects? What are we saying behind their backs? How do we talk about them? And then how do we think about ourselves? So if we can do that, I think that is a very tangible way of showing that we're inwardly sound and others focused. If we can do that over and over and over again, that's knowing who we are, liking who we are, and being who we are, and that's what we get the opportunity to do in the midst of all of this. And so